Good morning, everyone. I'll be speaking about the framework of quantum strong exponential time hypothesis. It's a joint work with Harry Bowman and Florian Spielman. And I see both of them are there in the audience. So any difficult question, shoot at them. So let me begin. Okay. Ooh. No, I'm not allowed to share. I can't.
Oh, it's
Okay,
stuck.
sorry for the technical detail. Yeah, but I'm not allowed to move ahead. I wonder why. Okay.
That works.
Yeah, that works. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. Yeah. So, okay. Consider this satisfiability problem. Now, what is it? We are given a Boolean formula, which is on n input variables, and we want to know whether there exists an assignment to these n variables that satisfy this formula. And when the formula is in conjective normal form, we call it as CNF SAT problem. Now, what do we know about CNF SAT problem? We know that it's NP complete problem. So like a polynomial time algorithm, a classical polynomial time algorithm to solve CNF SAT problem is highly unlikely. We know that the current lower bound is n, which is really bad. And the current upper bound that we know for arbitrary long clauses is actually exponential, and it is 2 power n. Now there's this huge gap between the current lower bound and the current upper bound for CNF SAT problem. So in 2001, Impactizio, Paturi, and Zane conjectured that there might not be any classical Turing machine that can solve CNF SAT faster than 2 power n. And by faster here, I mean in the exponential, like the speed up in the exponent. I'm not talking about the log factors or the polynomial factors in n. Now, basically what they're saying about this conjecture is like that you can't really use the description of the formula to get any speed up. You're pretty much doing a brute force algorithm and checking for every possible assignment to that formula. So you're really treating the formula like a black box. And they name this conjecture the strong exponential time hypothesis. We also call it as SET. Now, SET has been instrumental in implying a lot of lower bounds. There have been lower bounds, exponential lower bounds for many problems, for many NP-complete problems. There have been many exponential lower bounds for problems which are outside NP. Like, for example, say you want to have, you want to prove that quantum computers cannot be strongly simulated by classical computers. There have been results which prove these results based on like conditioned on SET. But more importantly for our talk, SET also has implied many polynomial lower bounds for problems in complexity class P. And we are going to look at problems of this kind. Now, one of the first SET-based polynomial hard problem was this orthogonal vectors problem. And it's actually a fairly simple problem. So we have like two lists, A and B, of n vectors of d dimension each, like as you can see here. And the question is whether there exists a vector in A and whether there exists another vector in B such that their inner product or their or what we call, the inner product or the vector, the inner product is actually 0. Now, in 2005, Brian Williams proved that if orthogonal vectors problem had a faster than quadratic algorithm, then SET would render false. And thus making this very simple algorithm, the order n square algorithm, upper bound tight. Now the proof is fairly simple. I do want to discuss it to kind of give a flavor of how these reductions work. So what you do is you are given a formula which is defined on n input variables and say m clauses. Now you create two lists, one for the first half of the variables and the second list corresponds to the second half of the variables. Now what you do is for every possible assignment to these variables, you fill in these blocks and these blocks are of m size. So you have like 2 power n by 2 vectors of m dimension each. Okay, so how you fill it? So you see if, say for this assignment, if these variables satisfy the ith clause, then the value here would be 0. And if it is not able to satisfy, or if it is like, or you can't determine, then the value is 1. And when you keep doing all that and you fill out all these blocks, and if you find an orthogonal vector, a pair of vectors which are orthogonal in this list, ultimately what you have found is an assignment that would satisfy this CNF SAT problem. It's not hard to look, it's not hard to see that, but I'll move on. So this kind of, this kind of said that if you have a faster than n square algorithm, then you are basically solving CNF SAT faster than 2 power n by 2 power n. So you are rendering set false. Now, the reason why we talked about the orthogonal vectors problem is because this problem became very important for other problems in this complexity class B. So there are so many string problems whose quadratic lower bounds were also given conditioned on orthogonal vectors problem, which was in turn conditioned on CNF SAT. So, and the reductions from OV, so I will be calling orthogonal vectors as OV, and the reduction from OV to these string problems all kind of have the similar flavor. I'll just discuss how it looks. So what they basically do is you kind of take every element from this list A and you encode that into a long string in a particular way. Then you take every other element from this list B and you encode them all into another string Y. Like, sorry, I think I said string A, that's actually string X. And then you do that for B into string Y. And the encoding is done in such a way that, like, say, for example, I'm talking about LCS, then LCS of X and Y is like greater than some threshold if and only if we have some pair of orthogonal vectors, or it is less than the threshold if we don't have any. So, but all these string problems kind of have the same flavor to these in these reductions. Now, but the important part is still now we've been talking about the classical computation and we have talked about set, but we do know that set doesn't hold in the quantum setting, because we could use the Grover's algorithm and solve CNF SAT quadratically faster. So all these set based lower bounds that we encountered will not hold any longer in the quantum setting. But what is interesting is the basic principle behind the classical and the quantum algorithms are actually the same. While in the classical case, also the description of the formula doesn't help, in the quantum case as well, the description of formula is not really helping. You are really getting this Grover speed up even when you treat these as the string as black box. So like in both the cases, the principle is kind of the same. So it's viable to then conjecture that there might not be any bounded error quantum algorithm for CNF SAT, which can solve satisfiability on CNF problems faster than 2 power n by 2. And while we were conjecturing this, there was another group, Aronson et al., who were also conjectured this and proved lower bounds based on this conjecture. So let's revisit these reductions once again. And so let's see what happens to the lower bounds that we saw in the classical case. Now, all these quadratic lower bounds that were present because of set, they just become linear. And so we lose this advantage. We kind of lose some advantage because the known upper bounds for these problems in the quantum setting is also n square, but the only thing that we are able to explain with a basic Q set is that it'll have a linear low bound, which doesn't make it very interesting. But when we looked at these reductions more carefully, what we noticed is by tweaking them tiny bit here and tiny bit there, we are actually able to encode some other property other than just satisfiability property, which is interesting because those property might not be amenable to Grover like speed up. So that kind of pushed us to talk about the like to give up give our to present our QSET framework. So now we'll take a little detour. We will look at how this QSET framework is. Now again, imagine you're given a polynomial CNF formula on n variables, and from here on, this TT on formula will denote the truth table of the formula. So that's going to be a 2 power n bit long string, and this here would denote the description of the formula. Okay, so we are given this formula, and now we want to say, instead of the satisfiability property of the formula, which is nothing but the OR property on the truth table, say we are interested in some other Boolean property, like say majority or parity or something on the truth table. So ultimately, given phi, we want to compute P of truth table of phi. Okay. Now, how much quantum time does it take to compute this property? So there are two settings, right? Like if we could only access this formula phi as an oracle, then clearly the time that is required will be lower bounded by the number of queries made to that string. So in that we denote by, we call that as a black box setting. And the time taken for that we denote by Q time BB. And there's another scenario where, as opposed to the black box setting, we really provide the description of the formula. And obviously that is going to take at most the time taken by the black box setting, because you could decide not to use the description. And this scenario we call the white box setting, and we denote the time taken by this algorithms as Q time WB. So yeah. Now we noticed how our basic QSET conjecture said that for this OR property, that is like for checking satisfiability, the description of the formula really didn't help. So we know that in that case, the Q time for white box setting and the Q time for black box setting were really the same. One disclaimer. So whatever I'm doing, I'm talking in the setting of bounded error algorithms. But I just left out the error part, not to make it too clumsy on the slides. Okay. But the interesting question is, now can we conjecture that for all properties, we have this Q, like the black box setting time taken and the white box setting time taken actually the same? Like, can we do that? Not really.
Sorry,
Okay.
Subha, do you
Yeah.
also mean that it's for every P and also for every phi, for every formula phi?
Yeah, for every formula phi, which and the formulas are like polynomial size. Okay. So now we can't really do that because, like, let's consider this AND property. Now what AND property really asks is, are all the assignments satisfying the formula or not? Now if you have the description of formula, I could really go through every clause and check whether that clause can lead to such a condition. And for that, I would only need polynomial amount of time in the classical setting. So obviously also in the classic quantum setting. But if I have only query access to this formula, then I am going to end up needing again exponential amount of time. So clearly it doesn't hold for every property. So one workaround that we had with that is, what if we don't limit ourselves to CNF formulas, because this AND property, because the CNF formula is in such a way that the AND is really easy and OR is hard. Just like for DNF formula, it would have been that OR is easy and AND is hard. So we decided we use some more obfuscated formula representation, a form of representations. So like say, polynomial size CNF and DNF formulas, or polynomial size, I'm sorry, here it's not polynomial sized branching programs, it's actually polynomial sized NC circuits. I wanted to correct this, but I forgot. Or say polynomial sized circuits. Now, then are we done? Like, are we, yeah?
What are DNF formulas?
Oh, so like in CNF formulas, you have the literal, like, so the clauses have or inside it, right? And in the DNF formula, you have the clauses with and inside it, the and symbol. And the clauses are attached with each other with a or. So it's just interchanging of or and in the CNF formula.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So, but then are we done? Like, are we ready with our framework? Not again. And the reason being, now, if we recall that our interest really lies in polynomial size circuits, okay? And and if we come back to our earlier claim, we said that this the time taken in the black box setting is going to be lower bounded by the query complexity of that property. But when we restrict the size of when we restrict this to polynomial size circuits, we are also restricting the strings to a smaller set. We are not really using, like, we are not really talking about the query complexity of the property on all strings. We're only talking about the query complexity only on a set of strings. And that we saw that the query complexity, like when the set of strings are really small, we don't actually have much of query complexity. And this we could see from a paper by Kothari. And the proof is easy. We are going to look at the proof a little later now, but just believe me for now.
So what is gamma? Sorry, can you remind me?
Yeah, I think I didn't tell you what gamma was. So I'm so sorry. Now, gamma is the representation that we are looking at. So when we moved our representation from this CNF formulas, we made it more complicated, right? So then we choose a new representation. So that I denote by gamma. Does that answer your question?
And S gamma, what is that?
Now, S gamma is, so if gamma is the set of circuits, then S gamma is the truth table of the set of circuits.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Okay, yeah, moving ahead. Now, but our desire to build this framework was so that we could actually exploit these properties with high query complexity. Because if we had just square root, if we just had 2 power n by 2, then we are gaining nothing again. So we introduced this concept of compression oblivious properties. Now, what we say is, for any representation gamma, there would be a set of compression oblivious properties. Now, the compression oblivious properties are those properties where the time taken in the black box setting to compute that properties on a subset is actually greater than the query complexity of that property on all the strings. So that is how we define this compression oblivious properties. Okay, and then we conjecture that for every class of representation, which is like polynomial size DNF CNF formula or NC circuits or normal circuits, we say for all the compression oblivious properties, we have the quantum time in the white box setting equal to the quantum time in the black box setting, which is nothing but the query complexity of the property on all strings. And hence, providing a framework that would relate our quantum time and quantum query complexity, which I don't think was done before. So, and one of the first application for our Q set that we give is to prove a conditional lower bound for LCS and the edit distance problem. And we prove n power 1.5 quantum lower bound for that. So the way we do it is, first, let me say what LCS problem is. Now, say you're given 2 strings, A and B, and LCS is defined as the longest common subsequence present in both the strings. So if you look at this example, we have 2 strings beagle and we have another string batches. And if you see one of the longest common subsequence is BAGE, and their LCS is 4. Yeah. So, we thoroughly studied the reduction from this BP SAT to LCS by Abod et al. And don't get bogged down by the name here. These are just branching programs, and BP SAT is defined as satisfiability on branching programs. And there's Barrington's theorem that says that relates branching programs to NC circuits. So I'll be talking about that later, but just think of branching programs as some computational model which is more complicated than CNF and DNF formulas. Okay. Now, so when we studied this reduction, we noticed that by slightly modifying this reduction, we are actually able to encode some other property, and we named that property as PLCS. But it's a little complicated and a lot more boring. So I thought I would discuss a property very close to how PLCS looks, and that property is like OR of majority. Okay. So now OR of majority is something like you have this n-bit string, and say you divided this n-bit string into root n blocks. So each of these blocks will have root n bits again. Now, if you want to find, what you need to find is if there exists a block with majority of ones in it. Okay, so that is the OR of majority problem. Now, there are two ways to I know of two ways how you can solve how you can prove this query lower bound on this property. One is by using composition method, and the other one, you could actually easily build the adversarial set for this OR majority function, and you will get this. So using this quantum adversary lower bound method, you will actually get n power 0.75 as the lower bound. Okay, and so we were able to prove, so our PLCS is not really OR majority; it's a little different property, and we were able to prove actually a query lower bound of that on strings of length 2 power n, because for our reduction, the strings are of length 2 power n using the same quantum adversary method. Now, so what we do now is we assume that this PLCS problem is compression oblivious, and assuming NC QSET, that is like the QSET version for NC circuits, we were able to prove a quantum time lower bound. So we were able to relate this query complexity that we got to the white blocks complexity of this property, and which, because of the reduction that we had from the modified reduction from BP SAT to LCS, we were able to give a quantum time lower bound for n power 1.5 for the LCS problem. So, and this, we did that for edit distance problem as well, but the proof is not any more interesting than the LCS one. But now, one important thing to notice here is we assume PLCS to be compression oblivious, and I don't think all of you will be happy with such an assumption. But the concern is, so we notice it is not really easy to prove a property is compression oblivious. And but we were still able to show that for any property P, which has high query complexity, and if the property can be solved in log n space, then P is compression oblivious. And if P is compression oblivious, then P is not equal to P space. So what we were able to show is, to prove PLCS, to prove any property is compression oblivious, is as hard as proving P is not equal to P space. And but we will still, I'll walk you through the proof of the theorem. I think I have it. Sorry, yeah.
Could you go back one slide for 1 second?
Yeah.
I guess I missed it, but this 0.75 in the exponent. Can you say something about this? How good is that?
How good is that? Oh, so see, our strings are of length 2 power n, right?
Yeah.
So if we would have got a complexity of 2 power n, then it would have matched the classical setting.
Right.
But what we had with the normal basic QSET was 2 power 0.5 n. Okay. which was making the linear bounds which was making the quantum bounds linear for us.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
which was not interesting. But this
Uh-huh.
one kind of gives us, like, this is in between 2 power 0.5 n and 2 power n, so it kind of gives us n 1.5 bound. Yes,
Yeah.
which is not like really tight yet, but it definitely is a step forward.
Good. But so it's not crazy to expect that it could be improved.
Yeah. So
Can you repeat what this notion of compression obliviousness amounts to?
yeah, like, you read the definition, Peter?
Yes, that's what I need.
Okay, yeah, I'll just go back. Yeah, so what we, the compression oblivious properties are those properties whose query, the time taken to process this property in the black box setting, but on a subset of strings, not on all strings, is still higher than the query complexity of those properties on all strings. See, clearly, if we had, so
And
clearly,
what are the requirements on the subsets you were talking about?
yeah, so the subsets that I'm talking about are polynomial size circuits. So that means this size of this S gamma would be 2 power poly of n. Yeah. Now going forward. Yeah. So what we're going to now prove is that if we have a property whose query complexity is really high, and this query complexity is on all strings, and the property is compression oblivious, and the property can be computed in polylog space, then we have P not equal to P space. Okay. Now, how do we do that? So we are first going to prove that, we're first going to assume that, this is a mistake. No, it's not a mistake. Yeah, we're first going to prove that if P is equal to P space, then this property P cannot be gamma compression oblivious. Now let's look at how we do it. So we need to understand the simplified version of this Oracle identification problem, which was given by Kothari, which I mentioned in the earlier, some earlier slide as well. So now, what is this Oracle identification problem? Okay, we have Oracle access to some string, which is, say, n bit long, and we know that that string belongs to some set S. Now, what we want to construct is that string X, but we don't want to use all these n queries. We want to use fewer number of queries. And we can do that actually with order root n log s number of queries quantumly. Now, how do we do? So now take every element in this set S, every string. Now keep maintaining a majority string. Okay, so this majority string will have, so the ith bit of this majority string will be 1 if most of the strings S had their ith bit as 1. Otherwise, it will have 0. Now you use this majority string and you check if that is equal to the string X by using Grover's algo. If this X and M disagree, the Grover's algorithm would return you an index, and you could then get rid of at least half of the set, because what you had in the index is the majority of the sets that were having the disagreement. So if you repeat this process log s number of times, you will end up finding that string that is actually X. And now the way we use it here is, remember we said, so we have this black box access to the circuit. We know it is in this gamma. Gamma is the set of polynomial size circuits. But so with this P equal to P space assumption, we can actually extract this compressed form of the circuit, like we can extract the description in order root n quantum time. And the reason we can do that is because when we are trying to compute this majority string, we are always using only we are always using these compressed strings, and these compressed strings don't take much of space. And because we have this p equal to p space assumption, we can take advantage of that, and we can convert that into the into an advantage in time. But because we need to make these root n number of queries, just like we saw here, we still end up making this many, we still end up spending this much quantum time. Now, so if we have a compressed string, which is of poly n, and we know that this property can be computed in poly L space, we, again, by using this p equals to p space assumption, we can compute this property on this small string in log n, log of capital N time. So what we have ended up doing is we start with the black box access to a string. We compute the property by actually getting the white box access to the string. And this is all under p equals to p space assumption. And we end up getting our Q time of this Q time BB of P as less than the query complexity of P, which is a contradiction. Thus proving that to be able to prove P as compression oblivious, we will be proving P is not equal to P space. So that then now coming, so this kind of shows that it's not really easy. So, and we are not able to prove some other parts of compression obliviousness. I will be telling that in the future directions. Now, some other applications of QSET were also like we had a lot of set based lower bounds. Now, all these set based lower bounds whose reductions were took time less than 2 power n by 2, they immediately carry forward to the quantum QSET based lower bounds, but with a quadratic speed up. Sorry, with a quadratic less lower bound. But for the set-based lower bounds whose reductions were not as efficient as which took more than 2 power n by 2 time, most of the times we could actually make on-the-fly reduction in the quantum case and still get the quadratic smaller lower bounds in the quantum case. And another application for our QSET framework that we saw was this this n squared set based lower bound for proofs of useful work. And we noticed that this particular scheme, this particular protocol is valid against quantum provers as well. So, and we could use this QSET framework to give that. And most importantly, we know that our QSET framework can be potentially a very powerful tool for proving conditional low bound for other problems in BQP. So we feel it has a lot of potential for problems. And obviously the potential candidates and the easy candidates would be the other string problems. And this notion of compression oblivious properties are also an interesting study of object, because we are curious to know as to what happens if parity is not compression oblivious. Will that violate some complexity theoretic notion or some believed conjecture or something? So we are very curious on this part. And future directions also include careful study of quantum time complexity for other problems like 3-sum or all pair shortest path problems. Now, these are other than the CNF SAT problem, these are some other main problems where so many lower bounds are based on conjectured hardness of these two problems. So you can refer to this amazing survey by V.V. Williams on this topic. Now, our paper is online, so you can have a look. Comments are welcome. And yeah, so I would end here. Thank you.